June is not a polite suggestion, it is a deadline. Right now, your soil is sitting at the exact temperature that separates a garden that feeds you through October from one that runs out of steam in August. That window, warm soil, long days, enough frost-free time ahead, closes faster than most gardeners realize. Miss it, and you are not just waiting until next year. You are leaving an entire growing season on the table. Here is the thing that makes June different from every other month. Your soil has finally warmed past the threshold where most warm season seeds actually perform. According to agronomic research from Iowa State University Extension, Texas A&M, Cornell University, and USDA crop production guidelines, most of the 9 crops in this video germinate faster, root deeper, and produce stronger plants when sown directly in warm June soil than when they were started earlier and transplanted in cold spring conditions. Transplant shock, cold soil stalling germination, roots that never fully establish. June direct sowing sidesteps all of it. But here is the contrarian truth that most gardening content refuses to say out loud. 3 of the crops on this list are the ones most gardeners skip entirely because they look complicated. The pumpkin that takes 90 days, the corn that needs a block planting, the okra that nobody in the neighborhood seems to grow. Those 3 are the ones that will make your garden the most productive, most self-sufficient, and most valuable by fall, if you plant them this week and not next week. Crop number 6 is the one that surprises people. It is a tropical vegetable that most senior gardeners have never grown, that thrives in the worst heat your summer will throw at it, that requires almost zero fertilizer, and that produces so prolifically that neighbors start showing up at your door. Stay with me, 9 crops. Every one of them with exact soil temperatures, spacing, depth, and timing from documented university extension research. Let's not waste another day. Crop 1, dwarf French beans, Phaseolus vulgaris, 50-55 days, sow by 8 weeks before first frost. Source: Johnny Selected Seeds, Succession Planting Chart, University of Connecticut Extension, June Gardening Tips, Homes and Gardens, Vegetables to Sow in June. French beans are the workhorse of the June garden and the crop that rewards you for thinking in cycles rather than single harvests. Here is the insight most gardeners miss. 1 planting of French beans gives you 1 harvest. The pods come in fast, you pick them over a week, and then the plant is done. If you sow once and walk away, you get a glut in July and nothing in August. The strategy that changes everything is successional sowing. Planting a new batch every 14 to 21 days from now until 8 weeks before your first autumn frost. According to Johnny's Selected Seeds Succession Planting Documentation and the University of Connecticut June Gardening Extension Guide, this staggered approach creates a continuous rolling harvest that keeps fresh beans coming right through to the end of the season. Bush beans, the dwarf varieties, are the version to plant in June for one simple reason. They need no staking, no trellising, no vertical infrastructure. Sow them in a block or fill the gaps left by harvested spring crops. They are the gap fillers that pay rent in every garden bed they touch. Sow 1 to 2 inches deep, 8 to 10 inches apart, in well-drained soil at soil temperature between 65 Fahrenheit and 85 Fahrenheit. Germination in 5 to 10 days. Consistent moisture during flowering and pod development is non-negotiable. Drought stress during this window toughens the pods and drops the yield dramatically. Harvest every 2 to 3 days without fail. Leave a pod on the plant to mature and the plant reads it as mission accomplished and stops producing. Every pod you leave is a week of harvests you forfeit. One biological advantage worth knowing: beans are legumes. Their roots form symbiotic partnerships with rhizobium bacteria that fix atmospheric nitrogen directly into the soil. When you pull your bean plants at the end of the season, leave the roots in the ground. The nitrogen stored in the root nodules releases slowly into the surrounding soil, a free fertility boost for the next crop that goes in that bed. Crop 2, zucchini and summer squash. Cucurbita pepo, days to harvest. Direct sow only. Source: Farmer's Almanac, Zucchini Growing Guide, The Art of Doing Stuff, Growing Zucchini, University of Connecticut Extension. Zucchini has a reputation for being so productive that gardeners end up leaving bags of them on neighbors' doorsteps anonymously. That reputation is earned, and June is exactly when you want to set those plants in motion. The most important rule with zucchini in June: direct sow, do not transplant. Squash root systems are fragile. Transplant shock stalls them badly, and they never fully recover the growth momentum of a plant that germinated in place. Sow 1 inch deep in fertile soil amended with compost, 12 inches apart minimum. Germination in 5 to 10 days in the warm June soil. Here is the pruning technique that most zucchini growers never use. Documented in detail by the Art of Doing Stuff's zucchini growing research and confirmed by agronomic guides at Farmer's Almanac. Once your plant begins producing fruit, prune every leaf below the lowest developing zucchini, cutting close to the stem. This does two things simultaneously. It opens the center of the plant to airflow, which dramatically reduces powdery mildew, the white dusty fungal coating that eventually destroys every neglected zucchini plant in midsummer, and it redirects the plant's metabolic energy upward into fruit production instead of maintaining old leaf tissue that is no longer contributing to photosynthesis. Space is the second non-negotiable. 12 inches apart is the minimum. Crowded zucchini creates a humid microclimate at ground level that is practically a mildew breeding ground. Give them room and a stake driven into the soil before planting if you want to grow them vertically. Vertical zucchini in a small garden is one of the most space-efficient moves you can make. Water at the base, always. Wet foliage on any cucurbit is an open invitation to fungal disease. Crop 3 sweet corn, ZMA's days to harvest, 60-90 days block plant, not rows. Source: Iowa State University Extension. Growing Sweet Corn, Texas A&M University. Sweet Corn Easy Gardening. Cornell University Home Gardening Guide. Sweet corn planted in June germinates faster, roots ooze more aggressively, and produces sweeter ears than corn planted in Cold Spring soil. This is not opinion. Iowa State University Extension documents that super sweet and sugar-enhanced hybrids lack the germination vigor to perform in Cold Spring soils. June's consistently warm ground above 65 Fahrenheit is the environment they were bred for, the one rule that determines whether your corn sets full ears or hollow cobs. Block planting. Sweet corn is wind-pollinated. The pollen from the tassels at the top of each stalk must fall down onto the silks of the developing ears below. In a single long row, the wind carries most of that pollen away. In a square block of at least 4 short rows, the pollen circulates within the block and each silk has multiple chances to be fertilized. Missing this one detail is why most homegrown corn comes up half-filled and disappointing. Sow 1 inch deep in heavier soils, 2 inches deep in light sandy soil, 8 to 12 inches between plants. Corn is a heavy nitrogen feeder, the most demanding crop on this list in that regard. According to Texas A&M Extension Sweet Corn Production Guidelines, split nitrogen applications work best. First application when plants reach knee height, second application when tassels emerge. Consistent moisture during the silking and ear formation stage is critical. Water stress at this window directly reduces kernel sugar development and yield quality. Succession plant corn in blocks every 10 to 14 days for a continuous harvest rather than a single overwhelming glut. Each block takes up space but delivers a distinct harvest window, extending your sweet corn season by weeks. Crop 4. Pumpkins Cucurbita maxima, Cucurbita pepo. Days to harvest, 90-120 days. Late June is the last window. Source: Michigan State University Extension. Pumpkin planting timing. Mississippi State University Extension. Pumpkins. University of Georgia. Homegrown pumpkins. Pumpkins are the crop with the clock ticking loudest in June. At 90 to 120 days to maturity, planting in late June means your pumpkins ripen in late September and October. Perfectly timed for fall harvest, autumn markets, and the porch displays that make gardeners look like they know exactly what they are doing. Miss this window and the biology works against you in 2 directions. Plant too early in spring and your pumpkins ripen in the peak heat of August. They rot in the field within days of maturity because heat accelerates the decomposition of any ground contact tissue. Plant too late and frost catches them before the shell hardens. Late June is not optional. It is the agronomic sweet spot that Michigan State University Extension specifically documents as the timing that aligns flowering and fruit development with the cooler temperatures of late summer, when pollinators are most active and blossom drop from heat stress is minimized. Plant on raised mounds of soil, not flat ground. The mound elevates the crown of the plant above any pooling water, dramatically improving drainage and accelerating soil warming in that specific planting zone. Sow 4 to 5 seeds per mound at 1-inch depth, then thin to the strongest 2 to 3 plants once they reach 3 inches tall. Vines will run. Some varieties extend past 10 feet. Direct them away from other crops from the beginning. Once a pumpkin vine decides where it is going, redirecting it risks snapping the stem. The broad leaves act as a living mulch, shading the soil surface beneath them, suppressing weeds, and conserving moisture for the entire surrounding garden, the same principle used in the Three Sisters companion system. 1 inch to 2 inches of water per week minimum. Monitor closely from the moment seedlings emerge for squash bugs and squash vine borers. Both lay eggs on stem tissue in June, and their larvae burrow into the vine and destroy it from the inside. Check the base of every stem weekly and remove egg clusters by hand. Crop 5 cucumbers, Cucumis sativus, days to harvest, 50-70 days trellis from day 1. Source: OSU Extension. Grow your own cucumbers. University of Georgia KAS. Growing cucumbers. MSU Extension. How to grow cucumbers. Cucumbers sown in June soil above 65 Fahrenheit germinate in 3 to 10 days and are harvesting in under 10 weeks. They are the fastest return on investment of any vining crop in a summer garden, but only if you give them the one infrastructure requirement that separates a productive plant from a diseased one. Trellis. From day 1, not after they start vining. From the moment you sow the seed, have the trellis in place. OSU Extension and University of Georgia Extension both document the same finding. Cucumbers grown vertically have better airflow through the canopy, significantly reduced incidence of foliar fungal diseases including angular leaf spot and downy mildew, cleaner fruit that develops without ground contact, and dramatically easier harvest because every cucumber is visible instead of hidden under a sprawling tangle of leaves on the ground. Sow 1 inch deep, 12 to 24 inches apart depending on variety, in fertile soil at pH 6.0 to 6.8. Cucumbers accumulate cucurbitacin, the bitter compound that makes cucumber flesh unpleasantly sharp under heat and drought stress. Consistent moisture is the single most important variable in cucumber quality. Not the most fertilizer, not the best seed. Consistent moisture from germination to harvest. One critical pollination rule. If you use row covers to protect young seedlings from cucumber beetles, which are destructive early-season pests, remove those covers the moment the first male flowers open. Cucumbers are insect-pollinated obligates. A covered cucumber plant with no bee access produces blossoms that open, receive no pollen, and drop without setting fruit. The cover that protected the seedling becomes the barrier that empties the harvest. In hot climates where standard cucumbers suffer quality loss in peak summer heat, Armenian cucumber, which is technically a melon but grows and tastes like a cucumber, maintains crispness and flavor under high-temperature conditions that would make a standard slicing variety. Bitter and tough. Crop 6, okra. Abomaceous esculentus. Days to harvest, 50-70 days. The heat-proof crop most gardeners overlook. Source: Arkansas Cooperative Extension, Okra Home Gardening, Oklahoma State University Extension, Okra Production, MSU Extension. How to grow okra. This is the one. The crop that most gardeners have walked past at the seed rack for years without picking up the packet. Okra belongs to the mallow family, the same botanical family as hibiscus, and it was not designed for the gentle temperate garden. It was built for heat, where most vegetables start suffering above 85 Fahrenheit. Where tomatoes drop blossoms and cucumbers turn bitter, okra accelerates. It wants soil temperatures between 70 Fahrenheit and 95 Fahrenheit. It wants long, hot days. June is not stressful for okra. June is optimal. According to Oklahoma State University Extension and Arkansas Cooperative Extension, okra is the most heat-tolerant food crop available to a home gardener in a temperate zone. Before you sow, deal with the seed coat. Okra seeds have a thick, hard protective shell that significantly delays germination if you plant them dry. Soak them in water for 24 hours before sowing. This softens the seed coat and dramatically improves germination uniformity. Some gardeners freeze the seeds briefly before soaking to physically stress the coat further. Arkansas Cooperative Extension documents both methods as effective. Sow 3s to 1 inch deep, 12 inches apart, in well-drained soil at pH 6.0 to 6.8, rows 3 to 4 feet apart. Do not fertilize heavily. This is one of the rare vegetable crops where high nitrogen inputs actively reduce your yield by pushing the plant into leaf and stem production at the expense of pod development. Here is the harvest rule that determines whether your okra plant produces for the entire summer or shuts down in 3 weeks. Harvest every 2 to 3 days when pods reach 2 to 3 inches long. This is not a guideline, it is a biological trigger. When an okra pod matures and hardens on the plant, it signals the crop that reproduction is complete. Pod production slows dramatically. Leave one pod to fully mature on the plant, and your harvest drops by half within a week. Stay current on the harvest, and the plant keeps producing as long as heat and moisture support it. The pods are covered in fine hairs that irritate sensitive skin. Long sleeves and gloves for harvest. It is a small inconvenience for a crop that produces abundantly in conditions that defeat everything else. Crop 7. Sweet Basil, Ogemum basilicum. Days to harvest, 65-70 days. The companion that earns its space twice. Source: Purdue Extension Sweet Basil Production Guide, Farmer's Almanac, How to Plant and Grow Basil, Julia Dimikos, Complete Guide to Growing Basil. Basil is the herb that most people already grow, but most people grow it wrong in one specific way, and that single mistake costs them half their harvest and most of their pest protection. Basil is cold sensitive to a degree that most gardeners underestimate. Temperatures below 50 Fahrenheit do not just slow it down, they cause physiological cellular damage that turns leaves black at the edges and permanently compromises the plant's volatile oil production. June is the first month in most temperate climates where the nights are reliably warm enough for basil to thrive without protection. Plant it now in warm soil above 70 Fahrenheit, and it establishes in days rather than struggling for weeks in cold spring conditions. Sow seeds shallowly, feet and worker inch deep. Basil seeds need light to germinate. Press them onto moist soil with just the thinnest covering. Seedlings in 5 to 10 days. Here is the technique that doubles your basil harvest and dramatically increases its effectiveness as a companion plant. Pinch the terminal growing tip the moment the plant develops 2 to 3 pairs of true leaves. This single action, removing the central growing shoot, disrupts apical dominance, the plant's tendency to grow upward in one direction. The response is an explosion of lateral branching. One central stem becomes 4 to 6 side branches. Each of those branches becomes a harvest point. Each produces the volatile oils that disorient aphids, thrips, and whiteflies on nearby tomatoes and peppers. The pinching is not optional. It is the difference between a basil plant that produces a handful of leaves per week and one that becomes a dense, bushy, aromatic hedge that supplies your kitchen and protects your vegetable beds simultaneously. Succession sow every 14 days from now through midsummer. Basil bolts, sends up a flower spike in late summer heat. Once it bolts, volatile production drops and the leaves develop a bitter undertone. Staggered plantings ensure you always have young productive plants ready when the older ones shift into flowering. Crop 8. Zinnia elegans. Days to bloom, 55-80 days. Direct sow only. Roots hate disturbance. Source: Clemson HG's UMN Extension, Zinnia. Johnny selected seeds. Zinnia key growing information. If you are growing food crops in June and not growing zinnias alongside them, you are running your vegetable garden without its security system. Zinnias bloom in the exact temperature range where pollinators are most active. 75 Fahrenheit to 85 Fahrenheit soil temperature for germination. Full bloom in 8 to 12 weeks. According to UMN Extension and Clemson HG, zinnias attract native bees, butterflies, and predatory wasps that move from the zinnia flowers directly into adjacent vegetable beds where they increase cucumber and pumpkin pollination rates and prey on the soft-bodied insects that damage your crops. Direct sow is essential. Zinnia roots are sensitive to disturbance. Transplanted seedlings stall and sulk while direct sown plants push past them within a week. Sow and 1/4 inch deep in a location with 6 to 8 hours of direct daily sunlight. Germination in 3 to 7 days in warm June soil. Thin to 9 to 12 inches apart. Crowded zinnias create the humid, airless microclimate that powdery mildew calls home. Water at the base, never overhead. Wet zinnia foliage is a direct pathway to leaf spot diseases that strip the plant of its productive canopy within 2 weeks. Drip irrigation or hand watering at soil level keeps the foliage dry and the plant producing blooms from midsummer through the first hard frost. Cut zinnia blooms regularly. Deadheading, removing spent flowers before they set seed, tells the plant that its reproductive mission is incomplete and forces continuous new bloom production. A zinnia that is allowed to go to seed stops producing new flowers. A zinnia that is cut regularly produces prolifically for months. The same flowers that protect your vegetable garden also fill your kitchen with cutting flowers for the entire summer season. Crop 9. Marigolds. Tagetes patula. Tagetes erecta. Days to bloom, 40-60 days. The living pesticide that cleans your soil. Source: Farmer's Almanac. Marigolds. Gardenia.net. Marigold Care Guides. Marigold Key Growing Information. Marigolds close this list because they do not just protect the crops planted beside them this season. They protect the crops you will plant in this same soil next season. French marigolds, Tagetes patula, and Signet marigolds germinate in 5 to 8 days at soil temperatures of 70 Fahrenheit to 75 Fahrenheit, blooming within 6 to 8 weeks of sowing. African marigolds, which grow larger and take longer, are better transplanted as nursery starts in June to guarantee summer blooms. The soil chemistry they create is what makes them indispensable. According to Gardenia.net companion planting research and documented companion planting guides from University of Arizona Extension, the roots of French marigolds synthesize and release alpha-terthional, a sulfur-containing chemical compound that is toxic to root knot nematodes, the microscopic soil parasites that invade root systems and cause the galls, stunted growth, and yield loss that most gardeners misdiagnose as nutrient deficiency or drought stress. Plant marigolds densely this season, till them into the soil as green manure at the end of the growing season, and their decomposing root tissue releases that chemistry throughout the upper soil profile, suppressing nematode populations for the following season. This is the definition of a crop that works in 2 time dimensions simultaneously. The flowers above ground attract pollinators and beneficial predatory insects to your vegetable beds right now. The roots below ground are making next year's soil safer for your tomatoes, peppers, and carrots. Sow in 1/4 inch deep, 8 to 12 inches apart in any well-drained bed under full sun. Marigolds tolerate poor soil better than any other crop on this list. They are the one plant that asks for almost nothing and returns biology, beauty, and pest control in exchange. Do not over-fertilize them. High nitrogen inputs push leaf production at the expense of flowers, and the flowers are the reason they are in the garden. The Three Sisters System. Using 3 of these 9 together, integrate companion section. Source: Iowa State University Extension, Texas A&M Extension. 3 of the 9 crops above, sweet corn, beans, and pumpkins, form the foundation of the Three Sisters companion planting system, one of the most ecologically efficient planting designs ever documented. Corn stalks provide the physical trellis for climbing bean varieties. Beans fix nitrogen from the atmosphere directly into the soil through their root nodules, feeding the nitrogen-demanding corn and pumpkins simultaneously without any synthetic input. Pumpkin vines spread across the soil surface between the corn rows, acting as a living mulch that shades the root zone, suppresses weed germination, and conserves the soil moisture that all 3 plants share. The system is self-reinforcing. Each plant serves the others. No synthetic fertilizer required. No weed fabric needed. The architecture itself does the work. Plant the corn first in a block. Plant beans 12 inches from the corn base 2 weeks later once the stalks have some height. Plant pumpkins at the outer edges of the corn block simultaneously with the beans, directing the vines outward into the surrounding garden space. This is not gardening nostalgia. It is a documented polyculture system that reduces synthetic input requirements while delivering 3 separate harvests from a single planting footprint. The shod cloth germination trick for senior gardeners with compacted soil, technique not found in any mainstream June gardening guide. Here is the problem that never gets addressed directly in June planting guides. When soil is compacted and has low organic matter, the exact condition most senior gardeners are working with, the surface crusts rapidly in June heat. The top ½ inch of exposed soil forms a physical cap that blocks emerging seedlings before they can break through. You sow correctly, the seed germinates, the seedling pushes upward and hits a baked clay ceiling it cannot penetrate. The seed never shows. You assume it failed to germinate. The fix is so simple it takes 30 seconds to implement and produces germination rates in compacted soil that rival those in perfect loam. After sowing, lay a single layer of 30% shade cloth directly on the soil surface over the seeded area, not suspended above it, flat on the soil. The shade cloth does 3 things simultaneously that transform compacted soil germination. It blocks the direct solar radiation that bakes and crusts the surface. It retains soil moisture in the critical top 2 inches where the seeds are located, and it allows rainfall and irrigation water to penetrate through its mesh rather than pooling and running off the hardened surface. The seedlings push up through the mesh openings without resistance. The cloth is lifted naturally as they emerge. The moment you see the first seedling standing above the mesh, lift and remove the cloth entirely. Leave it on past that point, and the seedlings begin growing through it, and you create entanglement problems at the most tender growth stage. No special equipment, no expense. A piece of shade cloth that costs a few dollars from any garden supplier, reusable indefinitely. And it solves the single biggest germination failure that compacted soil produces in June, the sealed surface. Without any soil amendment, without any tillage, without disturbing the seedbed you just carefully prepared. This technique works for every direct sown crop on this list. Corn, cucumbers, beans, zucchini, basil, zinnias, marigolds. Any seed sown into compacted, sun-exposed June soil benefits from those critical first days of surface moisture retention that the cloth provides. June does not wait for you to feel ready. The soil temperature's right. The day length is right. The frost-free window ahead is exactly long enough for every crop on this list to reach full productivity before autumn closes in. Most gardeners spend June watching their gardens instead of planting into them. They look at what they already have growing from spring and tell themselves they will get to it next week. Next week, the soil is 2 degrees warmer and the window for pumpkins is 3 days shorter. And the week after that, French beans planted today would already be germinating. You have the list. You have the depths, the spacings, the companion pairings, and the succession intervals. The only thing left is to go outside with seeds in your hand. Tell me in the comments, which of these 9 are you planting this week? And tell me your situation: raised bed, open ground, containers, compacted clay, sandy and dry, because my recommendation for which crop to prioritize first changes completely depending on your soil and your climate. Drop your location and your soil type. I read every comment on this channel, and I will point you to the crop that gives you the fastest visible result in your specific conditions. If this gave you a clear plan for June instead of just a vague list of possibilities, share it with one gardener who is still standing in their garden wondering what to plant next. The season is short and the window is now. Subscribe for a new deep dive every week. Nature's Pharmacy, because the best medicine grows.